Hello from a very small airport here in the Shetland Islands in the very north of Scotland. Today I'm going to be catching a flight to the most remote inhabited island in the UK. This island is home to around 60 people and it's very famous for its knitwear and bird life. I've heard that it's one of the most friendly and successful remote communities in Britain. It's time to visit Fair Isle. The flight from Tingwall Airport to Fair Isle takes 25 minutes, so it's 10 minutes longer than the flight to Foula, where I went in the last video, and I will show you the luggage I'm bringing this time. I'm bringing this small backpack. This is my camera bag. It has my drone and all my camera equipment, and then this bag here is my clothes, my toiletries, and a few things for my lunch today. When I was on the Isle of Foula, I brought the Starlink internet with me. However, over the next few days, I don't have any urgent work that requires high-speed internet, and I think I'll be able to get by with the 4G. So the plane has already been to Foula this morning, and then it will come back here to the airport and then go to Fair Isle. So I'm just standing here waiting for the plane to come in. It's funny because it's not like a normal airport that you need to check in an hour before and there's no rules about liquids and things like that. I made my way inside the small airport building and was faced with some bad news.
So we've got this low pressure here. It's twisting around and it's coming like so. And it's apparently supposed to get worse, not better, as time goes on. Currently, Fair Isle is sitting in a gap, but it's still not good enough to fly to. It's 100 feet.
Okay.
So as the day goes on, it's going to get worse.
Oh, right.
So the chances are of getting there and back, because we'd like to come back, it doesn't look good for today.
Both the flights?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right. Apparently, it's not looking that good for tomorrow either.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There is a boat.
Yes.
Sitting in there at the moment.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's not going to go today, but it will go tomorrow.
Okay. So you heard what the pilot said. Today there is no flight to the Fair Isle. There should be 2 flights, but both of them are not going ahead. And he also expects that this weather will continue until tomorrow, so it's likely that there'll be no flights tomorrow as well. There should be a ferry departing tomorrow, so I'm going to call the ferry company now and try and get booked on to the ferry. I actually wanted to go on the ferry because I feel like when I go to an island, it's a nice experience to take the ferry. However, the ferry only leaves on very specific days, and because it's July, it's the high season at the moment, there were limited days available in the accommodation and they didn't coordinate with the ferry. And I also wanted to leave and return to the same place, because if I leave from the airport but then return by ferry, the vehicle will be in the wrong place, and that's what's going to happen if I take the ferry now tomorrow and then I return on the flight. So it's okay, I can take a taxi between them, but obviously I wanted to avoid paying a taxi fee, so that's why I had planned to leave and depart from the same place. I'm going to send a message to the guest house on the Fair Isle and let him know about the situation with the flight, and then I'll call the ferry company and hopefully get booked onto the ferry tomorrow. Fingers crossed. I'm going to send a message now to the guest house host. He messaged yesterday saying, hope to meet you at 10:25 at the Fair Isle landing strip, with a thumbs up. Now it's a thumbs down. Since I had a day to kill, I visited 2 of my favourite places on Shetland, St Ninian's Beach and Frankie's Fish and Chip Shop. If you visit Shetland, these 2 spots are must visits. I've arrived here at the Fair Isle ferry. They said to bring my luggage down. I have been looking to get cash, so you need to pay cash on the ferry, and it's around £20 each way, but I went to Sunborough Airport to the ATM. It's empty, so I couldn't get cash, but they said on the Fair Isle I can go to the post office, take out the cash and pay for the ferry on the way back. So I'm going to get my luggage ready now, bring it over, and they said they'll probably leave early. Okay, I do have some seasick tablets. However, I really don't like taking them because they make me so drowsy, so it doesn't look that choppy. I think I'm not going to take them today. Okay, so here is the boat that will be going to Fair Isle. It's called the Good Shepherd. Looks like they're all ready to go, so I better hurry up. The ferry from the Shetland main island to Fair Isle costs £19.50 for a one-way ticket. I decided to also book the ferry back. So Wow, we're already away. I got on the boat about 30 seconds ago and we're already departing. Bye bye Ernie boy in the distance there. So he says it will take around 2.5 hours and probably should have taken the seasick tablets, but he said it's too late now. They've given me some seasick bags just in case. Oh no, they must think I look like the type that'll be seasick. Behind me in the distance is Sunborough Lighthouse, and that's a really great place to see puffins. I was actually speaking to a bird watcher just as I was getting on the ferry, and he said that some minke whales were spotted off the cliffs at Sunborough Lighthouse not too long ago. If, when we're sailing along, we manage to see any whales or dolphins, that would be incredible. The boat is a little bit choppy. It's rolling from side to side. I'm going to stay outside and keep my eyes on the horizon. That seems to be the best way to avoid seasickness. There is Sunborough Lighthouse up there behind me. It is starting to get quite choppy now. We're rolling over a lot of big waves here. Perhaps once we get out into the open sea, it could be even more choppy.
Fair Isle is the southernmost of the Shetland Islands. Located about 20 miles from the Shetland mainland and 23 miles from Orkney's northernmost island. Fair Isle has been owned by the National Trust since 1954. They are a charity dedicated to preserving and protecting historic places and natural spaces for public benefit. The island has been occupied since Neolithic times, and the current population is around 60, but peaked in the mid-19th century at around 380. Many of the houses on the island are owned by the National Trust, and the islanders rent them.
We're coming into Fair Isle. There's the lighthouse, the North Lighthouse on Fair Isle behind me. I'm not feeling 100% to be honest. I don't think I'm going to be sick, but I'm looking forward to getting off the boat. We are arriving into Fair Isle. The views are really incredible. We're going through this quite narrow, rocky area into the harbour. There's some yachts in the harbour. In we go. Wow, look at the scenery over on that side.
I was picked up at the ferry port by Tommy, my guest house host. On the way to the guest house, we stopped to see the airport.
So we've stopped here at the Fair Isle airport, where I should have arrived, but made it on the seasick ferry instead.
Near the airport is the water plant that supplies the island's fresh water. Fair Isle also has 24-hour electricity, generated by 3 wind turbines, solar panels and batteries. Tommy runs a guest house called the Old Ha, which was previously the Laird's house. It's located on the south side of Fair Isle, where most of the islanders live. I'll be staying in a private room with a shared bathroom, and breakfast and dinner are included.
I've made it here to Fair Isle. That sea crossing was a little bit rough. I think if you are not very good with boats, I don't recommend you take that crossing. I think that was probably up there with one of the most rough crossings I've ever encountered. I still feel a bit seasick even though it's a few hours later. The weather this afternoon is looking dry, so I'm going to head off for a walk now and try and explore a little bit of the island. I came into the cemetery here on the island, and like on Foula, there is a war memorial, so it looks like there were 9 men lost in the First World War from Fair Isle, plus another in the Second World War, and then there's some more gravestones behind me here.
In the cemetery there is an iron cross commemorating the shipwreck of El Gran Grifon, which occurred in 1588 and left around 300 Spanish sailors stranded. The island's 17 households sheltered them, but many sailors died due to harsh conditions and injuries. The exact number of deaths is unknown, but the survivors endured severe hardships for 6 weeks before being rescued.
During my time on Fair Isle, I plan to go to the museum and learn more about the shipwrecks. This, I believe, was used to help pull up boats out of the water back in the day. Originally I thought it was maybe a well or something, but there was also one on Foula, and the ranger there explained to me what it was. Here's an old boat You know when you see a sheep that has been left in the field and you see the carcass, the boat looks a little bit like that, doesn't it? On a fair isle there are 2 lighthouses, and I'm here at the south end of the island, and this is the South Lighthouse, and this is the tallest lighthouse in Shetland, and it was designed, like many of the lighthouses in Scotland, by the Stevenson family. A lot of lighthouses in Scotland have this iconic yellow and white colour. Let's go and take a closer look. The birds in Shetland are so dangerous. Oh my god, these birds are out of control. I came here down to the South Lighthouse and I was getting ambushed by birds, and these birds are worse than the bonxies. They come even closer than the bonxies were when I was on Foula. I've wanted to come to this lighthouse for quite a while, and the reason why is because this lighthouse was the last lighthouse to be automated in Scotland. How incredible. The South Lighthouse closed in 1998. Marking the end of 200 years of lighthouse keeping. Before the birds attack me, they're coming from every direction. Here he comes. Oh my gosh. Anyway, it is currently July and I am freezing. I have my gloves here that I'm about to put on because, oh my gosh. This is out of control. It's funny, as you're walking along sometimes in Shetland, you come across the sheep's wool on the grass. Oh, it's so soft. Wow, this must be the wool that is used for the famous Fair Isle knitting. I made my way back to the guest house for dinner, and on my way I passed an interesting looking sheep. Crofting and keeping sheep has been a huge part of the history here in Shetland, and even to this day it is still common to see many sheep roaming around. So here are lots of sheep. The lambs are getting quite big now, but they're still very cute. I'm back here at the guest house, and so far I'm really enjoying Fair Isle. Before I head next door for dinner, I'd like to say thanks to Wine 52 for making it possible to film this video today. They're offering a free case of amazing wines. Wine 52 is a wine community that supports independent producers, and they find the world's best wines. Each month they send out a case of wine to you, and you can choose red wines, white wines, a mix of red and white wines. Included is also Glug magazine and 2 tasty snacks. This month their wines are from one of the world's most famous wine regions called La Mancha. One of their wines this month is El Progreose. It's a full-bodied Merlot. It has a vibrant and fruity character to it. I really want to give this a try. Cheers! This one is really good. One thing I really like about Wine 52 is that I try wines that I might not usually try. If you'd like to try Wine 52 for yourself, they're offering a free case of wine for your first month. And if you decide that Wine 52 is not for you, you can cancel or pause at any time. All you need to do is cover the postage fee, which is £9.95, and head to www.wine52/Ruth Wine, and you'll get your wine case delivered straight to your door. Now let's go and have dinner. Tommy had cooked up an incredible dinner. Some of you might recognise Tommy as he appeared in the Ben Fogle show called Lives in the Wild. He's originally from the USA but moved to Fair Isle in 2006. He's an artist, hat maker, and runs this wonderful guest house. I'll share his email for booking the guest house and his fantastic blog and online shop in the video description.
So what we have here is halibut, fresh caught on Fair Isle by Stephen Wilson. We have simply cooked in butter, tiny bit of garlic and little salt, just like you would do a nice scallop, because the meat is so tender. It's wonderful. You don't want to overpower it. I have a mushroom rice, and that has pumpkin seeds. There's some salad. There's a lime chutney, onion chutney thing, some pampadaums, some naan breads, and we're ready to eat.
This looks incredible. Thank you so much, Tommy.
Desserts over here.
Desserts? Oh wow, we've been baking. Oh wow, was that a chocolate brownie?
Chocolate mousse cake.
Oh. After dinner, Tommy and I headed up to the North Lighthouse. The North Lighthouse on Fair Isle, designed by the Stevensons, is the island's second lighthouse.
Fair Isle has been a crucial shipping landmark for thousands of years, but its hazardous coastline has caused over 100 shipwrecks. The lighthouses are essential for safe navigation, especially during storms and fog. On the cliffs near the North Lighthouse, we spotted so many puffins and waited for the sunset on the cliffs.
It's windy enough that the puffins can almost glide without flapping like a foamer.
Is this one of the best places to see the puffins here on Fair Isle, do you think? At the North Lighthouse?
Well, this is one of my favorite places to see puffins because you get the sunset. We got a small population of puffins nesting here, and they're very approachable because I've been coming here for so long. So they sort of like are used to humans. Puffins, sunset.
That's amazing.
Some camera. Plus there's all the other birds.
Yes, you mentioned that rock over there has a lot of gannets.
So that rock is called Kirkstack. And Kirkstack looks like a church, a kirk. And the roof is white from nesting gannets.
When do the birds leave Fair Isle usually? Around what time of year?
So the puffins are gonna leave when their chicks are hatched.
Okay.
The chicks go right out to sea. And most of the chicks will be hatched by mid-August.
Okay.
So if you come in late August, don't expect to see a puffin hanging about. They'll be gone.
Where do they go?
They go out to sea. They don't hang out in big groups.
Okay.
It's a protective situation where if they hang out in a big group, a predator can find them all. One of the things that makes puffins so great is their feet. Now, yes, they got that colorful beak, but it's their feet that makes them different than the other seabirds because they walk upright and they walk around and they have big personalities doing it. And they walk at the top of the cliffs. Unlike a razorbill or a guillemot, their legs are suited for like swimming.
I started my day with a lovely breakfast in the guest house, then met Johnny, a ranger on Fair Isle. We went for a walk on the south end of the island.
Yeah, this is just a temporary fence that we put up during the growing season for this plant here, which is oyster plant. Matensia maritima is its scientific name, and in the British Isles, it only grows in the far north of Scotland, so places like Shetland and here in Fair Isle, hence why we protect it because it's so rare nationally.
I booked my free ranger walk through the Bird Observatory website. Since 1948, the Fair Isle Bird Observatory has been monitoring bird migration and populations. The island is renowned for its rich bird life and is a crucial stopover for migratory birds. Rare birds are also sometimes spotted, making Fair Isle an exciting destination for bird watchers. The observatory plays a crucial role in bird conservation. However, the building sadly burnt down in 2019. A new bird observatory is currently being built.
We have a few great skuas flying around here. In Shetland, they're known as bonxies, which is a name that then sort of permeated into the birding world as a whole. Most people seem to call great skuas bonxies. This pair here had a nest around this area in the south of Fair Isle, which is quite an unusual location. Normally they're on the hills and the moors in the north. We just had a check of the nest and it's been predated, so eaten by a gull or maybe a crow or a raven. We could almost tell that something had happened to the nest because the closer we got, the bonxies didn't come and attack us, which is a very normal thing for them to do. They're really, really fantastic and aggressive parents over their territory and over their eggs. And part of the bird observatory work which we do is to monitor the bonxies population, and by that you have to find all of the nests and GPS mark them so we can see a map of where they've nested and how many there are. And that's quite a fun activity with them getting more and more aggressive the closer and closer you get to the nest. It's a helpful tell that you're near a nest or near some chicks but you have to keep one eye to the ground, one eye in the air, because bonxies will not hold back from giving you a real wallop on the head. In fact, the other day, one managed to catch me straight on in my face. I just happened to be looking down at the GPS to mark the location. It was my fault, I wasn't paying attention, and it came full on, and its feet hit me here. And it was a bird that we'd ringed, or the Bird Observatory had ringed in previous years. So that was an extra bit of hard metal right on my nose, and it gave me a nosebleed. I'm fine. I was more worried about disturbing the bird, but yeah, they're really incredible, and I guess take on the role of a bird of prey on an island like this. So this is the Holmes, the green home island of Fair Isle, and this is where we at Fair Isle Bird Observatory have our study plot for the puffins. Fair Isle has quite a healthy population of rabbits, which are not native here, but they've been here for decades, and they're actually a bit of a boon for the puffins. The puffins nest in burrows, and if a puffin can co-opt and take over a rabbit's burrow, it's more than happy to do so. Whereas on the islands here, where rabbits have never touched their feet on the ground, the puffins have to build their own burrows, which is what they'd be doing naturally anyway without the rabbits. Puffins' silly little orange webbed feet do have quite sharp black claws at the end of it, which is what they use to dig their burrows. And that must be just so exhausting and so taxing. It means that the puffins are extremely protective over their own burrows, and it's quite common to see them getting in horrendous scraps with each other over whose land is who's getting too close to whose burrow. And when they come back from their winter out at sea, the first thing they do is find and re-establish their territories, and that's when some of the most brutal fighting can be seen. But the puffins on this part of the island, which have dug their own burrows, for our puffin monitoring, you have to stick your hand down the burrow to find the chick or the egg, or sometimes the adult, which gives you a really sharp bite. And the rabbit burrows are a bit wider, they give a bit more room for you to put your hand down, but the puffin-made burrows are so narrow and so bendy. When they reach a rock, they'll go around it, so we are having to contort ourselves into really daft pretzel shapes just to find the chick at the end of the burrow sometimes. There's an area on the island here where the rabbits and the puffins both burrow side by side, and you can just see rabbits chilling next to puffins. They're all hanging out together. To my mind, at least, once the rabbit's burrow's been taken over by a puffin, it's not too much energy for the rabbit to just build another one. And the way that puffins fight and defend their space, I don't think it would be worth a rabbit's time to try and get its house back once the puffins have moved in.
Yeah.
Not only do birdwatchers like seeing a new species, but you can really get into, well, when you get into birds, you might want to see all the different ways that one species can present itself or be. So I just spotted down there's a few puffins loafing around, and we know puffins, they got their white face and the big red and blue beak, and this one has a grey face and a little grey beak, but it's too early in the season for it to be a chick that's left the nest. So this is a puffin from maybe last year or the year before, so it's 1 or 2 years old.
It's time to head to the museum, and I'm planning to meet a local here in the museum who's going to explain more about the history of the island.
The museum is named after George Waterston, a key figure in Fair Isle's history. He bought the island in 1947 and founded the Fair Isle Bird Observatory. He significantly advanced birdwatching and conservation efforts on the island, and sold the island to the National Trust 7 years later for the same money he bought it for. Inside the museum, I had a great chat with Stuart Thompson, a former Fair Isle lighthouse keeper. He shared with me about his work as a lighthouse keeper, his knowledge of the shipwrecks, and the unique strawback chairs that he now makes. The museum has many interesting artefacts, including a section about Fair Isle knitting. Fair Isle knitting is a traditional technique that originated on Fair Isle. For hundreds of years, knitting has been an integral part of the islanders' way of life. Their distinctive approach, featuring striking colour work and complex patterns, became so successful that the island lent its name to a widely recognised knitting technique known as Fair Isle knitting. It's now used globally to describe stranded colour knitting. Authentic Fair Isle knitting follows 3 rules. It must be made of Shetland wool, use no more than 2 colours per row, and adhere to traditional Fair Isle patterns. I caught up with Marie. She's from France but moved to Fair Isle in 2017. She has her own knitting studio on the island and hosts knitting holidays.
The madder red, the Prussian blue is colors that they would be able to trade from passing ship, and that led them to be able to have bright color for dyeing the yarn from the ship. So they also have colors that are more the natural. So this is undyed, that's the colors of the Shetland ship, and this was kind of what made Fair Isle famous. But then we can also be so creative, because Jamieson of Shetland, I'm using the wool from, they have over 200 colors. So it's really good to be creative and just get inspired more by the landscape, by the sea and things like that. Most of my work in the winter is designing bespoke knitwear for customers. So they pick colors from the 200 I have, and then I arrange them in different ways so they can see on the computer how it would look like, and then I knit them the garment. Obviously, traditionally the knitting was done on what they call wires, so it's double pointed knitting needles. If they were knitting garments, they will knit with 4 wires that they would have in their knitting belt, so that would allow them to have one hand holding one needle and then the other hand holding the yarn. When you see video of them knitting, it's amazing, but nowadays we're not as fast knitting by hand and it would be really expensive. In the 80s, the craft started slowing down. I think financially it wasn't bringing so much income, and islanders were introduced to those flatbed knitting machine. So they don't use electricity or electronics or computer. It's a mechanic. It's a bit like a weaving loom, and it's even less help than a sewing machine for people that are sewing clothes. So they don't have a very good reputation because people think they are printing garments, but that's not what they do. They help you shorten the time for knitting the panel, but then you still have a lot of hand work and handcrafting for making a jumper. When those machines were introduced, the islander took a lot of pride to get a quality that was equal as the quality as they were doing by hand. So the sewing is completely invisible. This is where the seam is, and you can see it on the inside. You can see the seam, but on the outside it's completely invisible. It's the same for where the shoulder is grafted on. So this is the end of the front here and the back, but you cannot see the row where it's grafted on. It's completely invisible. And same with how the neck is put on. It's perfect. So the quality of the garment it's a craft in itself. And if the machine hadn't been introduced to Fair Isle, it would probably be that no one is commercially knitting at the moment, because it would not be possible in the world we are living in to be paid a living wage for knitting by hand. It's something I'm really passionate in my knitting holiday, teaching people how to use them. Also, it's the only way that in a week we can make something of a sensible size that people will have that forever to remind them of their trip. I didn't want people to come to the island for a week and then leave with a sample or a hat or something quite small that they could have done on home. So many of the guests I've got have never seen a machine before and will likely not buy a machine when they get home, but they just really enjoyed the process and learning the technique. Another thing that I really enjoy in knitting that is less traditional is those very big frows. Those very big frows are more inspired by the colors of blue of the sea. This is not something you would get traditionally in Shetland, but this is kind of my interpretation of living on the island, I would say.
I've had such a fantastic day so far here on the Fair Isle. I spent the morning with the ranger, which was really fantastic. I learned so much about the birds and about the plants on the island. And then I went to the museum, and if you're on the Fair Isle, I highly recommend a visit to the museum. You can learn so much about the history. Stuart, who showed me around the museum, is so knowledgeable about the lighthouse, about the shipwrecks, about the knitwear, about the chairs that are from the island. It was really interesting to have a chat with him and hear about the history. Then I met with Marie, and Fair Isle knitting is so beautiful. It was so nice to see the designs and to learn more about why Fair Isle knitting is so special. I've now gone for a walk, but the rain has come on, and I'm at this point here where there are the remains of a German warplane that was shot down, and it's in the distance over there, and it mentions here on the plaque, these are the largest pieces of a German aircraft to still remain above ground. Wow, that's really interesting. My impressions of the island so far is that every single person I've encountered has been so friendly. I think this is possibly the friendliest island I have visited in Scotland. I'm going to head back to the accommodation to have dinner, and tomorrow the weather looks really nice, so I'm hoping to see some of the more scenic parts of the island in the lovely weather. Let's go! On my way back, I passed the community hall, the school, and a church. The island also has a post office and a well-stocked shop. I was so happy to get out of the rain back to the guest house where Tommy had cooked up another fabulous dinner. What are we on tonight, Tommy?
We're doing a miso noodle soup with some more fish in it. There's bok choy and noodles, and there's a poached egg on top of it.
Oh, it looks incredible. Thank you so much for all the amazing food so far. It's been so delicious.
You're welcome. You're fun to cook for.
Okay.
What can I say?
Good morning. Today we're heading off on Tommy's tours to explore the Fair Isle. Woohoo!
Well, a car gives you a slight edge to get around quickly.
Yes. We've arrived here at the lighthouse, and at the lighthouse there is a 6-hole golf course. I have the scorecard here. The course looks quite challenging. It's quite close to the sea, but let's see how we get on. Tommy also gave me some balls and tees, and the balls are all different colours. We have a yellow and a pink ball here. He said they're good to use because if you are hitting the balls here, sometimes there's sheep wool and there's shells, so it's quite hard to see the white balls.
This is the Fair Isle Lighthouse Keepers Golf Course on Fair Isle. Now, the lighthouse keepers were all Scottish, and they came to the island and they brought their culture with them. And one of the things they did is they used to golf on this croftland around the lighthouse. And they had a 6-hole golf course. No one played golf here after they left when the lighthouse was automated. I heard stories of this lighthouse keepers golf course, and there are some old photographs. I was like, well, wouldn't it be great if people could play it now, even though the lighthouse keepers aren't here? So I worked with the National Trust and the bird people and the crofters, and I've got it sorted so people can play golf on Fair Isle still again. And it's a 6-hole golf course, and you would have to golf it 3 times. That's how they did it. There were 3 holes up at the North Light as well, so you could do 9 holes, 3 there, 6 here. But it's a fun course, and it's absolutely beautiful. And if it was manicured by something else than sheep and weather, it would be one of the most stunning golf courses probably in Scotland. You got this lighthouse and the sea and the wildlife. Today, we've got Arctic terns, and they're nesting on the side in these rocks here. They really don't like us hanging about, so they're like flying over and bothering us, trying to scare us away from their chicks.
So the hole is over there, and it looks quite a challenging place to aim the ball. Do you have any tips, Tommy?
Hit true. It's a dog leg right, which works good for my slice. But the flag is on a peninsula and it's cliffs on both sides. So, try to hit it in this little green area before you run up the peninsula to the flag. It's a great place to lose your ball.
Yes, well, I haven't played golf in about a year, so I'll hope for the best.
Nice!
So on the golf course you get attacked by birds as well.
here is the ball that it hits, and there's the flag up there. So basically I am Ruth Woods.
You're Tiger Woods, the Tigress Woods.
I basically could be called Tiger Woods with that shot. Here's the ball in comparison to the lighthouse. So let's see how it'll go from here. Oh no, that was way too far.
Where'd it go?
Over the edge, I think.
Did it go over the other side?
Oh, I'll go and see if I can find it. Unfortunately, that was quite a long shot and it went over the edge. I don't think.
Here's a new ball.
Oh yes, it's gone down into the water. There's no hope for the ball now in there. Oh dear. I'm going to use the putter now. This is the area that I lost the ball. I can imagine, especially if you're not very good at golf, it's quite easy to hit it into the sea.
Even if you're good at golf.
Oh yeah?
You know, because you want to try to get out here and one. And you did a beautiful shot for your first one.
Oh, thanks.
But there's no forgiveness on each side. It's cliffs.
Yeah,
So
very challenging.
perfect. Oh, that's good.
On the green.
The sheep haven't been doing their job.
No. Oh, this looks quite tough here.
Yep. Oh, good one. Yay!
One ball made it.
Ferrol
through.
Golf Course.
Yes, this is a fun golf course.
Ferrol signature hole number 6. These are the remains of a seal. I mean, not a seal, a dolphin.
Oh my goodness.
This is the tail, and you got all the invertebrates, the spines and stuff.
What happened to it?
It died.
Did it just wash up here?
It's a white beak. I noticed this dolphin, and it was dead, and it was over on the other side of the peninsula. I noted it, and then the next day it was a storm, and it blew up into this harbor, this little bay, and then it was decomposing for months and months and months. Here's the head. Bad dry skin problem. Maybe need some skin lotion. But here's what's left of the jaw and its teeth. A lot of the teeth have fallen out. Yeah, so that's the beak.
Oh.
The eye socket would have been right here. Right here. We put some rocks on it so it doesn't blow away. But it's nice to leave it here so people can see it.
Next, we caught up with Stephen, who you might remember from the ferry journey. As well as working on the ferry, Stephen has a croft, a small fishing boat, and a holiday cottage. Stephen's family have lived on Fair Isle since 1560. He showed me his new sheepdog puppies.
This is Ash's puppies. This is Ash's second litter of puppies. She had a litter 2 years ago, didn't she? Yes. She's got 3 boys and 3 girls, and we've already there's already 3 boys going to homes. They'll all be sheepdogs, and 4 out of the 7 last time went to be sheepdogs. She's a very good sheepdog herself, and she's an extremely good mother. So.
Oh, they're so small. I've never seen puppies before.
Have you not?
I don't think so.
This one's called Gull. See the gull on its back.
Oh yeah.
The daddy's a sheepdog as well, so.
We then had a tour of his holiday cottage. This would be a lovely place to stay on Fair Isle.
This is my cottage called Springfield. My grandfather was actually born in this cottage, and he lived in here with 10 other people. So I'll take you on a tour of it's got 2 double bedrooms. This is a nice little sun trap out here to sit and enjoy a meal and with a glass of wine. It's got fibre broadband connected. Go on through. This is the kitchen living room with a log burner and a huge library. Lots of books on Fair Isle history, Shetland history, and many other subject matters. Shower room, toilet, walls are adorned with my late father's paintings, who lived here for many years and was brought up here. Double bedroom, Fully central heated with wind energy and oil energy.
If you'd like to book Stephen's cottage, I'll leave his contact information in the video description. We headed back to the north of the island and joined Stephen on his boat. We went for a cruise and it was amazing to see the cliffs from the sea. We went out to the big rock called Kirk Stack, which is covered in gannets. Next, Stephen tried some fishing, but we had no luck. So then we went towards the east side of the island near Sheep Rock and saw many guillemots on the cliffs. The weather was absolutely amazing as we cruised back into the harbour. The trip on the boat was absolutely fantastic. We saw so many seabirds. I saw puffins in the water close up. They were hunting for food. It was incredible. Now I'm at the harbour area, which is behind me, and nearby is an area where you can see a huge puffin colony. So I'm going to go and check that out next. As I'm walking up the hill here, I can see Sheep Rock in the distance, and it's a very uniquely shaped rock, and as we were going past it in the boat, you can actually go through Sheep Rock. There are caves and they're like tunnels through the bottom of Sheep Rock, and it was really cool to see. And Stephen was also mentioning that his family used to have sheep on there, so Sheep Rock was part of his family's croft. They've lived on the island for many years, and it was a big challenge to get the sheep off Sheep Rock. I think he said they had around 40 sheep on there. They used to have chains, and when we were out on the boat, he actually pointed out some poles that were in the grass at the top of the cliff, and that's where the chains were connected onto. The chains I don't think are there anymore, and at the moment I think these days they also don't keep sheep on Sheep Rock anymore, but so interesting. Oh my goodness, the puffins are literally right there. They're right there. Can you see how close the puffins are? There are so many puffins on these cliffs. Wow. Are just here. Look at all the puffins. There are so many, and they're so tame. Okay, maybe not. Oh, there are so many. Look over there behind me. It is like a puffin paradise here. They are my favourite bird. I think puffins are on par with newborn babies when it comes to cuteness. After I'd had my dose of puffins, I headed back to the guest house for dinner. Stephen had caught some lobsters earlier in the day, which he kindly shared, and Tommy cooked them up for us. Fair Isle has completely blown my expectations. I've had the best 3 days on this island, and a huge part of that is because of the friendly and welcoming people I've met. I think Fair Isle might just be my new favourite Scottish island. Thank you for watching this video, and see you next time.